The Philadelphia Eagles are creating the scariest NFL team ever. When I tell you nobody wants to see the Eagles right now, that may be an understatement. After the Eagles organization parted ways with Doug Peterson following a new direction under head coach Nick Sirianni, nobody truly knew the events which would follow. In Sirianni's first press conference, he caught a lot of backlash for not striking the general NFL fandom as a guy who you want leading your troops. I'm sure Eagles fans all remember, it's all about systems, and you have to learn your systems to get good at your systems and execute your systems, so you must have systems. That was a rough first impression, but when the Eagles returned to the gridiron under the leadership of Coach Sirianni, they began to build the fort piece by piece. At the head of the fort, we have the $1 million man, Jalen Hurts. Hurts led the Eagles his first full year as a starter before a gruesome loss to Tampa Bay in his wild-card playoff debut. Two things were certain after this season between Eagles fans and the organization. Jalen Hurts was in fact their guy. For the first year, statistically, the numbers weren't going to blow anyone out of the chair, but with Hurts' combination of leadership, work ethic, and raw playmaking ability, there was optimism that with time and proper passing game development, Hurts can make the Eagles' offense unstoppable. The second thing was that the future of this entire roster was already set up for success one way or another in 2021, but let's talk about what was not certain, or maybe it should have been. Howie Roseman pulled out his biggest bag of tricks in the 2021 offseason. A good roster was not enough for Howie and the Eagles. He knew that beyond the development of current players, that some key additions and some key pieces would take this team to the next level. So he went and got them. In particular, I want to highlight 4 players. Hassan Reddick and Kaiser White, both acquired during their initial free agent period. James Bradberry, who was signed post-May due to cap issues with the division rival Giants. And the most notable, star receiver A.J. Brown, who was acquired in an aggressive yet savvy trade. Paired up with a nice calculated draft day featuring selections of Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, and more. You have yourself a team ready to compete. And as expected, the Eagles did just that this past year in the 2022 season. Jalen Hurts took the next step as a pocket passer, leading behind that dominantly. This defense racked up over 70-plus sacks, placing them in the territory with those mid-80s Bears teams. Now, I don't have to spend too much time in saying that the season unfortunately did not end how all Eagles fans wanted it to. Much respect to Mahomes in Kansas City, but if you want to know my answer as to why the Eagles didn't win the Super Bowl, I think we look no further than the head coach over there in Arizona. However, instead of sitting in his own sadness, Howie Roseman said to heck with that and put up, quite frankly, one of the top combinations of free agent re-signings, free agent additions, and draft selections you might ever see. Despite losing key players such as Javon Hargrave, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Miles Sanders, and others, I can confidently say that I believe the Eagles got better. Yes, a team who made the Super Bowl and had a chance to win will field an even better team this year. Eagles fans knew that some of the band would be broken up due to cap resources running thin, but I think they were equally as surprised by the players which were retained and added. The Eagles added Kentavious Street, Terrell Edmonds, Nicholas Morrow, Marcus Mariota, Greedy Williams, Rashad Penny, Justin Evans, and Olamide Zaccheaus. Key players who were retained include James Bradberry, Boston Scott, Brandon Graham, and Fletcher Cox, among others. After free agency, the only real concerns were in the running back, safety, and interior defensive line rooms. Also noting that some depth at tackle or a starter at right guard could be feasible if not for Cam Jurgens sliding in there. Once again, Howie answered. The big question while approaching the draft for Philadelphia was, will the best defensive player in the draft slide due to off-the-field incidents? As we all know, he did. The Eagles selected Jalen Carter 9th overall by trading up one spot and only giving up a future 4th. Sweet deal. The duo of Davis and Carter should be absolute nightmares for the next decade in the NFC. From there on, it was just value on top of value. 30th overall, Nolan Smith was a true steal due to the fact that he suffered an injury his last year at Georgia and didn't get to showcase his talents in what could have been his most productive season on film. I mean, consistently throughout the mock draft process, we found him at the top 20 at worst. Their second-round pick, Tyler Steen, shot up every team's draft board as we got closer, and he's a guy who offers tackle and guard flexibility, which I think the Eagles were specifically looking for in their offensive line picks. But overall, he transferred from Vanderbilt to Alabama and showed he can contribute at the highest level to winning football. Kind of a projection pick at this point, but I always believe in Jeff Stoughton. Their third-round pick in Sidney Brown was my favorite. If anybody was shedding tears about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, this pick is the tissue. I watched a lot of Sidney Brown in the pre-draft process, and he's a true Swiss Army knife who flashed in zone and man coverage at different spots in the Illinois defense. He's going to bring a lot of flexibility for a team who loves those nickel packages. Their fourth-round pick, Kelly Ringo, is a guy who screams size, speed, strength. Built like a safety, and that brings me to the point that I would actually like to see. I want to see this team try him at safety during their training camp because honestly, there won't be a lot of open reps at corner with this depth chart. But if it comes down to it, he'll be a developmental corner and he'll make his mark somewhere. Tanner McKee is a quarterback who is found ranked outside of the top 4 guys anywhere from the 5th best to the 7th or 8th best from what I watched on film. Saw him as a 3rd to 4th round guy, but he'll be a good backup for this team and prevents you from ever getting into that 49ers situation of playing a 4th-string quarterback who can't get it done. The 7th round pick, Moro Ojomo, is another steal. Again, I was looking at him as an early day 3 guy, and to find him in the 7th round is wild to me. Can be a run-stopping defensive end or a penetrating 3-tech. Either way, I think his talent will find him cracking at least a portion on that rotation or competing for it. Notice that out of these picks, 3 of them are Georgia guys. Can't forget about Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis either. And when the Eagles didn't draft another running back in this year's draft, some fans got a bit worried. But as always, Howie stepped in and said, I got it. When he made the trade to add yet another Georgia guy and a pretty good one in DeAndre Swift, the only position fans may want to see more attention to could be at off-ball linebacker, but it's still time to make a move. And if not, this showcases that they have trust in stud linebacker Nakobe Dean, who should have never been there in the 3rd round. By this point in the video, you can clearly witness that this roster is yet again built top to bottom, and honestly, slightly better than last year. NFL teams around the world are now on notice. The Philadelphia Eagles have built the scariest NFL team ever.